Hello, and welcome. My name is Caitlin, and I love movies. And today I want to give my thoughts, my feelings, my opinion on one of my favorite movies of all time. But before we get into that, let's talk about what kind of movie it is. This movie is a biopic. A biopic comes from two words: biographical, meaning about someone's life, a real person's life, and picture, meaning the good old moving pictures, the movies. Bring them together. A biopic is a movie about a real person's life. A movie about the beginning, middle, and end of a certain person's life. It can span years upon years, or it could be a snapshot, which is just a certain time period in someone's life. Our movie subject today falls under the umbrella of biopics, but it adds a certain twist that would make any theater kid's heart leap: music. Musical biopics depict the lives of musical artists, combining real-life stories of the artist while showcasing some of their biggest hits. Some movies that fall under this term are Bohemian Rhapsody, Coal Miner's Daughter, The Dirt, Tick Tick Boom, which those last two are amazing biopics that I enjoy so immensely, and I would love to talk about each of them, but that's their own thing. They can go sit in the corner while I deal with this one right now.
Anyway, my favorite was Rocketman.
I want to focus and chat about one of my favorite musical biopics and quite possibly one of my favorite movies of all time: 2019's Rocketman. As stated, Rocketman was released in 2019 and stars an outstanding performance by Taron Egerton as Elton John, the larger-than-life icon. Through and through, this movie is a complete spectacle. We follow Elton going through rehab as he brings us back to his beginnings as Reginald Dwight, a musical protege from a dysfunctional home in the UK, with a drunken mother, a cold and distant father, and a caring grandmother.
Reg, play the one I like.
We watch Reggie's talent for music grow while he continues to yearn for his father's approval and love. Music is the nice warm hug that a young Reggie Dwight never got. We watch Reggie go from playing backup for a soul tour in the UK to Elton writing songs with Bernie Taupin and getting his first record deal. Elton gets swept up in all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. His childhood trauma leaves a hole in his heart that he quickly tries to fill with anything and everything. No question about it, Elton was a full-blown addict, and this movie does not shy away from that hard truth. I mean, he tells us in some of the very first lines of dialogue in the entire film, "My name is Elton Hercules John, and I'm an alcoholic, and a cocaine addict, and a sex addict, and a shopaholic who has problems with weed, prescription drugs, and anger management." Sorry, I just love... Taron does such a good job with all the line deliveries, and that's one of my favorite lines, so I just kind of wanted to repeat that. This movie feels like we, as the audience, are getting to put on a pair of Elton's flamboyant sunglasses and getting a replay of his life, warts and all. I don't think everything is completely accurate unless Elton really did turn his feet into rocket boosters and literally fly higher than a kite. I don't think that actually happened, but it's very cool visual. Fantasy and reality go hand in hand with each other in this movie. We can have a scene of Elton's biggest cry for help with his suicide attempt, and then go straight into a heavenly dance sequence of him getting prepared for the Dodger Stadium only days after he overdosed. And that actually happened, and that's crazy, and I feel bad. Or when Benny and the Jets gets turned into a club remix as we watch Elton thrust himself further into his addiction, literally. One of this movie's biggest strengths is the fact that they went all out in making this film into a musical fantasy with full-on choreographed dance numbers and amazing costumes and scenery. There are some absolutely incredible musical numbers in this film, and I believe truly, like, some of them are just ingrained in my brain. Like, they will never leave. They will never leave here because they live there happily, rent-free, and I will keep them forever. And I 100% feel like this movie would translate so well to a musical theater stage. Like, actually, I don't know why someone hasn't done this yet. I don't know why Elton hasn't done it yet, but I'm not going to be the one to do it. I'm just saying, it's a really good idea. And if it happens, I'm totally the one who set it up. Larger than life, yet this movie tells such a simple human story at its core. I think another one of the biggest strengths of this movie is that Elton John himself was a part of the creative process from the beginning to the end.
It's all brilliant. It's amazing.
Unlike some biopics, which are grounded more in realism and tend to be a bit less raunchy in areas, Elton lays it all out for everyone to see his huge success in his dark rock bottom. I mean, Elton himself wrote for an article with The Guardian, some studios wanted to tone down the sex, drugs, so the film would get. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna do that part with an accent. I don't know what. That was bad. I'm just gonna read it. Some studios wanted to tone down the sex and drugs so the film would get a PG-13 rating. But I just haven't led a PG-13 rated life. I didn't want a film packed with drugs and sex, but equally, everyone knows I had quite a lot of both during the 70s and 80s. So there didn't seem to be much point in making a movie that implied after every gig I'd go home quietly to my hotel room with only a glass of warm milk and the Gideon's Bible for company. I included the whole quote because Elton here is hilarious. This is so funny. But I mean, like, I gotta respect him for not wanting to sugarcoat his own life into something that's more marketable, but it's just untruthful. Not only does this lead to a very raw depiction of Elton's addictions and struggles, but it also brings to life his story in a dazzling way. One of my favorite things about this movie is the way it bears it all while being so hyper stylized. The cinematography and music make the experience truly heart-pounding and also serve the story well. So many transition shots of Elton gasping awake, wondering where he was, and that's probably what it felt like jumping from city to city every night and being on so many drugs. I also want to mention a transition shot right here. Elton spent years feeling unloved from his father and hoped his success would help him finally gain his approval.
He didn't even give me a hug goodbye.
He's no good at showing affection.
In this scene, Elton has just reconnected with his father, and instead of healing, he watches his dad interact with his new sons in the paternal way Elton needed as a child. Elton's half-brothers get the comfort and stability from their father that he was denied, and this leaves Elton even more broken. We then have a beautiful transition of Elton crying while driving away from the house, and his glasses shift into Elton in rehab, still teary-eyed and hitting an emotional breakthrough. Frustration and sadness ooze out of Taron's performance as Elton finally faces his demons. A very emotionally gripping scene, but it stays above the waves with a hilariously dark line of dialogue.
What have you got to do to get a fucking drink round here, eh?
There are some gorgeous dance sequences with some of Elton's biggest hits, but they are so much more than just his songs cramped into a film because we have to have his songs in there. Music moves the story along and gives the film an excellent flow. Take the Honky Cat scene. A great song, but also we get to witness Elton being led by his toxic partner John Reed into a world of champagne, expensive paintings, and makeovers. Elton is transfixed by these life upgrades and successes, dancing along and singing a catchy tune. John is flashing all these shiny things at a young Elton who's quickly rising in the music world. And John, he is just so caring, can't you tell? He wants to be Elton's manager and pushes out his old record label. Oh, how sweet. I'm sure this sneaky music manager's sleazebag won't end up being, oh, never mind, he's
Shagging your secretary in front of the pool boy!
he is a total dickwad, my bad. That's just one song that takes us on a fantastical journey. These musical numbers are entertaining as hell, but they also show us exactly where Elton is mentally and physically in this time period. This movie takes the paintbrush that is Elton John's life, dips it in the beautiful colors of his music, and creates a canvas of some of the most beautiful staging and cinematography that I've ever seen in a movie. Through the framing device of Elton's group therapy and rehab, he begins to shed the layers of his past and everything that happened leading up to rehab itself. We watch him discover his talent and hone his craft. We see his family be torn apart by bitterness and old grudges, all while a young Elton just wants a hug, just wants that love and support that every child needs. And sadly, so do the rest of his family, but none of them knows how to ask for it or even give it properly. Besides his grandmother, she is awesome and cares for Elton and supports him through his entire musical journey.
Crumbs, that was energetic. Play another one.
We also learn of his lifelong friendship with lyricist Bernie Taupin, who enjoyed success just as much as Elton did, but he also could see what the fame and the fortune was doing to his friend. He never judges Elton once, not for his sexuality or his addictions. All he wants is for Elton to be okay at the end. He just wants Reggie to be okay. At the end of the day, I think this is a really human movie. I truly believe that there is something that everyone can relate to in this. From the big stuff of addiction to family turmoil and the rejection of one's own sexual orientation to the smaller things like anxiety, stress, and straight up loneliness. Beginning of the movie, a young Eldon asks his father, "When are you going to hug me?" And his dad responds, "Don't be soft." Throughout the entire movie, Elton is looking for that hug. Whether it's from sexual or romantic partners, or the drugs and alcohol, or the thousands of people screaming his name in sold-out stadiums. He continues to try to heal from that wound, and he finally realizes that he's been running from that pain. He has not turned around to face that wound and deal with it head on. Once the costume is shed and Elton is just back to being Elton, he remembers who he is. Deep down, he is just a lonely boy who loves music and desperately needs a hug. Elton finally realizes that he is the only one who's able to give that younger version of himself, Reginald Dwight, some love. He can finally heal that inner child. I remember I cried when I first watched this movie, like just the visual of little Elton finally getting that hug from an older version of himself who had to go through so much shit just to turn around and realize, I need to love myself. It's beautiful. This is a very raw story of a self-loathing, bedazzled addict who becomes a better man in the end. All this to say, I think this is a great movie with amazing music and an even better story. And if you haven't seen it, please go do so. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.